If you're trying to learn WebRTC in 2026, here is the honest answer. Most developers learn it the hard way, by copy-pasting sample code until it breaks in production. I'm Tsahi Levent-Levi. I've been working in WebRTC for over a decade, and this is the path I'd actually take if I were starting today. Why is WebRTC so hard to learn? Well, I guess it stems from the fact that WebRTC is multidisciplinary. There is some signaling that runs on top of a network that runs inside a browser, and then there is media that runs in real time, and codecs and hardware and software, and a lot of architecture in the backend. You need to learn a lot of different things to get a grip of what WebRTC exactly is. In some ways, you come and you say, well, I'm a web developer. I know how to build things with Node.js, with Python, to build Next.js backend. That's fine, but it's not WebRTC. It gets you slightly closer in the application layer. You might be someone that is really good at messaging in the browser, being able to send messages over WebSockets or webhooks, and you know what XHR is and SSE and other things that are used to send messages between a client and a server. That's part of signaling, but not all of it. Then there is the media path, codecs, MP4, H.264, two different things, by the way, the containers of files. Then there is the RTP of the packets, the headers, there's the actual media, the encoder and decoder, how compression works, do you do it on hardware or software, what happens when you start doing it in real time, when there are no retransmissions, how do you deal with packet loss concealment? All of these things wrap into this thing called WebRTC. Knowing one piece of it is not enough, and you cannot really know everything. I don't know everything that is to know about that. Now, if that's not enough, there's a part that is unwritten lore. Okay, there are things that exist in WebRTC that you won't find online in the specification or in how the browser is even implemented. These are things that pass between people when they actually try and work with WebRTC itself. Now, if you are starting to learn WebRTC, this is the wrong way to do that. You're going to go online, search for something with WebRTC, find something on GitHub or Stack Overflow, copy-paste, put it in your own application, and voila, you're done. You have a Zoom replacement. Done all in your laptop within an hour or a weekend. That's how much it takes us to vibe code things today, obviously. Now, it's not exactly that way. It doesn't work. The first thing that is going to break is not traversal. When I start moving the Zoom meeting that I've built from my laptop to two machines sitting on different networks in different homes, it might not connect. And that's, I wouldn't say by design, but that's because of how the network is built. And then you need to port stun servers and turn servers and figure out what's wrong and start fixing things. And then you start dealing with a lot of edge cases and network behavior. So if you are going to start learning WebRTC, just trying it off with a Hello World example or a demo is definitely not the way to go. How would I go about learning WebRTC? I'd start from the fundamentals. What exactly WebRTC is, what it can do, what it can't do, what it isn't, what are the limits of the technology, what are people building with it, how are they doing that? Okay, without that, you might come with an idea of, I want to build something that is better than Google Meet in video quality. Good luck with that. You might succeed if you narrow down what you're looking for and be very, very specific at what you're trying to achieve. Now, after you went through the fundamentals, I would go and deal with the architecture, understand the architecture of WebRTC solutions and how to build them at scale for the use case that you need. Doing that is it's imperative. Without that, you won't be able to build something that scales and works in production and can be maintained in the long run. The thought process that goes into the architecture of the application that we're going to build is going to be imperative to how you're going to do that. What I definitely wouldn't do is jump right into the grit of things and build stuff and implement things before I understand the basics of how WebRTC actually works and operates. That's a guaranteed way to ruin the application that you're building from the start. How would I go about learning WebRTC for free? This is what I would do. And again, I'm definitely not objective here. First thing I would do, go check the WebRTC Basics course. It's in my website, webrtccourse.com. You go there, you can subscribe and enroll for free to that course, and that would give you the basics, the fundamentals of how WebRTC works. After that, check out the WebRTC Code Lab. It's a code lab or a course that I've authored with Philip Hanke, the guy that knows everything there is to know about WebRTC. He's been there from the start, like me, on a different path. And together we have a course that explains how to use WebRTC, how to use the APIs, how to build an application, how to think about the edge cases in signaling, and where that meets you in race conditions and other issues that are going to be there when you hit them when you build your own application. You can do these two without spending a dime on building your application and learning WebRTC. Now, once you're ready to go deep into WebRTC and into understand the architecture, how things play and how to think about WebRTC and design applications with it, you can go and try out the Advanced WebRTC Architecture course in my website. And that's where you'll get like the big foundations of the things that you need to understand and know in order to be able to build applications from scratch with WebRTC. That will include an understanding of where the codecs are, signaling, browsers, hardware devices, embedded platforms, and looking at the big picture. Saying, we've got the devices, but we also have the servers and different types of servers. How do we fit all that in for the use case that we have in mind? So, a quick recap. Start with a free WebRTC Basics course at webrtccourse.com. It's the fastest, honest way in. Everything I just described, the full path, is laid out there. See you in my website.